Hi, in this video, let's try to see how you can move the contents of your site to the cloud. So what do we mean by that? If you go to your WP admin and go to your media library, if you try to add any new media content here, all these files should go over to the cloud instead of going into WordPress local servers, right? So let's see how to set this up. So the first thing that we need to do over here is you need to log in into your AWS console, and in the previous video we have already created an IAM user, right? We created a test user and we have associated all the policies. So in this video we will try to create an S3 bucket and a CloudFront distribution. Okay, so Amazon S3 is a simple storage service which is basically a highly scalable key value store, right? So let's try to create a bucket. Enter a bucket name. Oops. So you could see here the bucket name is already owned. So the one thing about S3 is that all the bucket names are unique globally. That means if anybody else in this world has taken this bucket name, you can no longer take that. So let's try to give different. Yes, that's not taken. So let's try to put this bucket in a particular region, which is Singapore. Next, and you don't have to do anything here. This is done. This is done. You could create the bucket. So let's try to create this bucket. Yes, discussion hive 01 is there. The next thing that you have to do is you'll have to go to the permissions, and as you can see here, you have not given any object access. So we might want to give this as read write, right? So and go to everybody and give read, because all users coming to your website will have the read access, which is a public access, and this is to any authenticated AWS user, which means in the previous video we had created a test user, so he is the authenticated AWS user. If you go to the bucket policy, leave it as it is. Okay, so CORS, right? This is the cross origin resource sharing. So I think by default they have created something, but there is one big catch here. If you go to my website bucket, you see the corks, this is the missing content. So here we need to add the content length. So what this means is like we are providing the content length back to the back in the request. So this is required for the gzip compression to work once we set up the CloudFront distribution. So we'll look at that in some time. Yeah, I think this is all is required in the S3 bucket. So let's go to the CloudFront part and let's try to create a new CloudFront distribution. So CloudFront is nothing but Amazon's CDN, which is a content delivery network. So if you don't know what a content delivery network means, this is trying to cache the data locally in geographical locations. Like for example, in my case, my website is hosted in Singapore, and let's say a user is trying to access this website from a far off region like North America. So in that case, Amazon would, whenever the first request comes, Amazon would take the first request and the content will be fetched from Singapore. So once that is done, the subsequent request, Amazon will try to put all this content which is fetched in the first place, and it will try to put it in a edge location. So edge location is like a local cache. So whatever content was there requested by the first user, it will be available locally in one of the North American region. So there are several edge locations worldwide. So when I created this video, there were around 66 edge locations worldwide. So that gives you an idea of what a CDN is doing. So CDN is basically caching the contents locally in your area so that your latency would be less. That is, the time to load a resource would be lesser, right? So let's try to create a CloudFront distribution. So you can see here the origin name, it will take an either origin as an Amazon S3 bucket or Elastic Load Balancer. So in our case, let's try to select a Amazon S3 bucket. I think we'll leave all other things defaulted. You don't have to bother about it. Yeah, so here this is the big one, compress objects automatically. So if you give this as S, that means that you are trying to do gzip compression for the CloudFront request. So what that means is, let's say a user is requesting for some resource in your website, be it an image or any other content, right, any media content, then whatever is available in the CloudFront edge location, that will be compressed and sent to the user instead of sending the image directly in a raw format or video in a raw format. So this helps in getting the content faster. That is, the size would be lesser and your website would overall your website page size will be less, which leads to faster website load times. That is, these things you can check in Pingdom site, right? That is a speed test site for a website. Okay, so we have enabled compress objects automatically, that is using gzip. And you see an SSL certificate here. Let's leave it default for the time being. You could select a custom SSL if you have a certificate created using an AWS certificate manager. So these things we'll cover in a different video. So let's leave this as defaulted. And yeah, I think that is pretty much it. You can create this distribution. So I'm not going to create this distribution. I already have a distribution. So please make a note that the distribution creation would take anywhere between 10 to 20 minutes depending on the media content on your site currently. If you don't have any content, it should be faster. But if you already have some content and then later on you're creating this CloudFront, then it means that it will take more time to come to the status which is deployed. That is because all these contents are streamed to the edge locations available in this world, right? Okay, so once this status turns to deployed, your CloudFront distribution is ready and it is up and working. So this is your domain name. Please note this domain name ending with cloudfront.net. Let's go to your WordPress admin. Okay, so if you go to a plugin tab, I have a W3 total cache plugin installed. So this basically provides a ton of features like caching, minifying and all other things, but in this video let's concentrate about setting up CDN. So if you go to the general settings of this, you can see a CDN over here. You just have to enable it, and in the drop down of CDN type, select Amazon CloudFront in the origin push. Please note that there are other options as well, like origin pull Amazon CloudFront or generic mirror, wherein you can set it up according to your needs. But in my case, I want to upload also contents via via this plugin. It will easily enable me to send all the contents via this plugin to Amazon CloudFront. So I am selecting this Amazon CloudFront, and let's go to the CDN itself, tab itself, right? So you see over here in general tab, we have some of the check marks for like whether you want to host your attachments, your theme files, your custom files and all. So once your configuration is done, that is the access ID and key. Remember in the IAM video, we had got the access ID and the secret key. You have to mention those here. This is your bucket name, which is the X3 bucket name we just created, and this is the CloudFront domain name which we got earlier once the CloudFront was deployed, right? So after all these things, just do this test. It should work, and just select upload attachments or whatever content you want. You can start, and this should pretty much put all your contents through the S3 bucket directly, right? So once this is done, you could select to do the other things manually. So this should be a one-time setup. Once these things are set up properly, then all you have to do subsequent times are you just have to go to your, let me go up to the media content. Every time you add something in your media library, all these things directly goes to Amazon S3, right? So if you come over to your S3, right, all these things should be in sync. So that is the objective of this video, and let's try to see whether all the contents are there. So if you go to my website discussionhive.com, and let's go over to an any post. try to see the source of this content. Usually it should come from WordPress, but in my case it is coming from CloudFront.net, which definitely means that the content of this site is coming from the Amazon CloudFront domain instead of coming from the WordPress server, right? So this enables very faster load times of your website. So that is pretty much it about this video, guys. So if you have any questions, just let me know in the comment section. Please like, subscribe to our channel. Thank you.